Hello, Commanders fans. Today we have some hot news that you can't miss. So get ready, because there's a lot of important information coming your way. Before we begin, we'd like to take this opportunity to subscribe to the channel, activate the notification bell, and stay up to date on all the news about our Washington Commanders. Don't forget to leave a like, which greatly strengthens our community and helps bring this content to the most passionate fans of the team. Now, without further ado, let's get straight to today's news.
Payne suspended for one game after unsportsmanlike conduct against the Lions. The Washington Commanders suffered a significant loss to their defensive line. Defensive tackle Payne was officially suspended for one game without pay after an unsportsmanlike conduct incident that occurred in the loss to the Detroit Lions last Sunday. During the second quarter of the game, Payne was involved in a controversial play when he hit wide receiver Amon-Ra St. Brown with a blow deemed excessive by the referees. The play was immediately reviewed, and the Commanders player was disqualified and ejected for the remainder of the game, leaving the team at a defensive disadvantage for the rest of the match. According to the NFL, Payne's action was a clear violation of the rules of sportsmanship outlined in the league's rulebook. The act violated Rule 12, Section 3, Article 1, which prohibits any act contrary to the generally understood principles of sportsmanship, including aggressive gestures such as punches or forearm strikes. Furthermore, the league also cited Rule 12, Section 2, Article 14d, which prohibits striking, swinging, or hitting an opponent's head or neck with the wrists, arms, elbows, or hands. The punishment imposed by the NFL is part of the league's efforts to reinforce the safety of athletes and maintain the integrity of the game, especially in situations involving unnecessary contact or physical aggression outside the context of the play. With the suspension, Payne will miss the international game against the Miami Dolphins, scheduled for next Sunday in Madrid for the NFL International Series. The player will only be able to return to the Commanders' active roster on Monday, November 17th, one day after the game. There is still the possibility of Payne appealing the decision, although so far, neither the player nor the team have announced whether they will file a formal appeal. Payne's absence represents a significant blow to Washington's defense, which had already been struggling against the opponent's running game. Coach Dan Quinn and defensive coordinator Joe Witt Jr. will have to adjust the defensive scheme to compensate for the absence of one of the team's key defensive linemen.
The Washington Commanders have suffered greatly from injuries this season, including at the wide receiver position. Hey, Commanders fans, the 2025 season has been marked by a true marathon of challenges for the Washington Commanders, especially regarding injuries. The team has suffered significant losses in several positions, and one of the most affected has been wide receiver. Among the players who have faced physical problems this year is star Terry McLaurin, one of the main names in Washington's offense. The veteran wide receiver suffered a quadriceps injury in Week 3, which kept him out for 4 consecutive games. When he finally returned to the field in Week 8, McLaurin had a good performance, but ended up aggravating the muscle problem, which forced him back to the medical department. Now, with the confirmation that he is ruled out for Week 11, McLaurin will miss his 3rd consecutive game, leaving Coach Dan Quinn with another challenge to assemble the team's offense that faces the Miami Dolphins in Madrid. Update on Terry McLaurin's status. Despite still being sidelined, there's good news for fans. McLaurin traveled with the team to Spain, indicating progress in his recovery process. Coach Dan Quinn explained the reason for the player's presence on the international trip during a press conference on Wednesday. Terry McLaurin is in the on-field rehabilitation phase. That's why he's here with us, reported John Keim, an ESPN reporter, quoting Quinn. This detail may seem small, but it's extremely positive. Players who remain in the initial stage of rehabilitation typically stay in Washington, undergoing only in-field treatments. The fact that McLaurin is already participating in on-field activities shows that the wide receiver is entering a more advanced stage of recovery. With the bye week in Week 12, the Commanders gained valuable time. The extra rest may allow McLaurin to finalize his rehabilitation without pressure and be ready to return in the Week 33 matchup, when the team will face the Denver Broncos. If this happens, it will be an essential reinforcement for an offense that has been missing its main weapon in the passing game. While number 17 continues his recovery, Deebo Samuel, Chris Moore, and Jalen Lane will have to assume even more important roles in the offensive sector. Samuel, in particular, should be the main target for quarterback Jaden Daniels, while Moore and Lane gain the opportunity to prove themselves and secure more playing time in the rotation. Another piece that could help is Treylon Burks, recently signed by the Commanders. However, he is also out for the team, which is still seeking offensive stability and consistency.
Adam Peters may need a $48 million solution to the Commanders' glaring problem. It's a neglected problem that needs attention during the offseason. Little has gone right for the Washington Commanders this season. The team is devastated by injuries, and all hopes of reaching the playoffs again are gone. Regardless of what happens from here on out, General Manager Adam Peters will have a lot of work ahead of him when the offseason begins. Peters bet on aging veterans. He repeated the strategy with virtually the same group, making 2 bold signings in the trade market and spending a lot of money on just one free agent. The plan failed, so changing his approach is essential during a recruitment period that will shape Washington's future. Several glaring problems need to be addressed, but one problem that is being relatively neglected compared to others is one that Peters should urgently rectify. The Commanders' running game has not performed well this season. Austin Eckler suffered a season-ending injury in Week 2. Rookie Ja'Cory Krosky-Merritt's meteoric rise, selected in the 7th round of the draft, has drastically slowed, and he lost his starting position to Chris Rodriguez Jr. in Week 10. Jeremy McNichols is a reliable backup and nothing more. The Commanders may need a $48 million solution to sign Breece Hall in 2026 free agency. Washington needs a prolific running back to play alongside quarterback Jaden Daniels. ESPN's Jeremy Fowler believes that the New York Jets running back Breece Hall is the best name available on the market, and that a 4-year contract worth around $48 million would be necessary to secure his services. Quote, Hall was highly sought after at the trade deadline. The fact that the Jets won a 3rd-round pick in exchange for a running back reinforces the idea that Hall has top-tier talent. And my impression is that he will do very well in free agency. Just think of Josh Jacobs' 4-year, $48 million contract signed in March 2024 as a possibility. Some personnel analysts thought that was a fair contract. Paying running backs in their second contracts is not without risk. Hall recently turned 24 and is fully recovered from the serious injury that prematurely ended his excellent rookie season. This would be an investment for both the future and the present, so it's something Peter should consider if the Jets can't keep him on the team. The Jets would have traded Hall before the deadline if their demands were met. Furthermore, this is a rebuilding team, so the 2022 second-round pick won't have a better chance of leaving town. Although the Commanders aren't exactly having a successful season either, the opportunity to play with Daniels could be the deciding factor in their favor. It's a lot of money, but there are ways to structure the contract so that it works for all parties.